So I've been playing Gray Zone Warfare for about an hour now, and I have tested basically every single graphic settings to get as much performance out of the game as possible. I know a bunch of people are having performance issues, so let's get right into these settings. Starting off with our game settings, honestly the only thing I changed here was I turned the FPS counter off, but other than that, it doesn't really matter. The reason is I have my Steam FPS counter up there. So moving on to our graphic settings, these are the important ones obviously. Theoretically, you should have this on full screen. The window mode should be full screen for the most FPS, but I alt tab a lot, and full screen is absolutely cancer when alt tabbing, so windowed full screen for me. Vertical FOV, I definitely think that 75 is the best. I know it zooms you out a little bit, but I haven't had any issues aiming at people's heads, so I think 75 is much better. VSync is just turned off by default. Brightness, contrast, saturation, and gamma, I didn't change them. I think the game looks fine as it is, and I haven't had any issues picking up or seeing enemies, so I think those are fine. Your max, so for your frame rate limit, I would just set it a little bit above what your max frame rate is. So mine's like at 160, so I've set to 180. I think that works just fine. And then for frame rate limit in the background, have that set to 30 FPS. So moving on to our quality presets, I think that in most games, these are what matter most for performance, but interestingly, when testing in Gray Zone Warfare, I found they don't really seem to affect FPS or performance very much. So for example, with global illumination, if I turn this set to epic, I'll still be at 160 frames per second. It doesn't seem to make a big difference at all. And weird, like I'm even higher than I was. So I'm not sure why these aren't changing anything. Like shadow quality, I can turn this to epic as well. It doesn't seem to make a big difference. I might lose like a few frames here and there, but it's weird. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Just changing these settings doesn't seem to make a difference at all. Even like textures on Epic, fine. So I'm not sure why those aren't making a difference, but if you're having issues on a low-end PC or whatever, I would suggest turning them all down to low or medium, depending what you can run. And you know, as you can see, they do make a difference with foliage. If you turn this up to like high or epic, you can see like the flowers appear and stuff, but it doesn't seem to make a big difference on performance. I would say with foliage, you definitely want to turn it on low just because there's a ton of foliage in this game and it can be really hard to see the enemies. With post-processing, I just have it to low. We don't want any motion blur, depth of field, or bloom. Those are all awful for FPS games. And here's the interesting. So for advanced, a lot of people are saying that they're having much better performance on FSR. And with both of these on and that on quality. Personally, I guess you could probably turn this to performance. That might give you better frames. But personally, I found that DLSS gives me a lot more frames per second. I'm getting about 160 with DLSS. With FSR, I'm getting like 100. So this is something you'll have to test on your own. I have an NVIDIA graphics card, and I am getting more with DLSS. Some people with NVIDIA graphics cards are getting more with FSR. I don't know what the difference is. I'm not sure why it is. That you'll just have to test it for yourself. But anyways, those are the graphics settings. Just, I mean, turn everything to low. It's pretty standard for every game. I mean, once you've played a few games, you should understand. But yeah, I haven't seen a big difference in how these make the game perform. Moving on to our controls. I have my mouse sensitivity set to 0.6 and my mouse DPI is at 800. I have a really big mouse pad though, so you can really got to test that for yourself. Generally, what I would say is for if you want to test on what your mouse sensitivity would be, when you move your mouse from the middle of your mouse pad to the side of your mouse pad, you should make about a 180, maybe a little bit more than a 180. That's so you can turn around and then aim at someone behind you, and you can do that in either direction. So I think that the 60 actually was good for me. So 50 is a little bit too low. But again, that's a personal preference thing, and it depends how big your mouse pad is and what your mouse DPI is set to. So moving on from here, in movement, I didn't really change anything other than I put sprint on caps lock just because there's no toggle for sprint right now, so you have to hold it with your pinky, and having that on shift, at least for me, gets painful after a while, and caps lock is a lot nicer for that. And then C and X for prone and crouch are just fine. I think those are pretty standard. I did switch my lean left and lean right to E and Q respectively. This is the opposite of what their defaults are, and the reason is if I'm strafing to the right and I want to look right, I don't have an extra finger to hit the E button as well, so I can hit the Q button with my ring finger while leaning right, while strafing that way as well. So that's I think like from Rainbow Six Siege or something. I don't know where I learned that, but it's definitely it takes a little bit to get used to, but it feels so much more natural once you get used to it, I promise. Okay, so then we get Moving on to weapon, I don't think I really changed anything here. Just make sure you know how to check all this. Switch the firing mode is B, and then holding your breath, really important, is left alt. In this game, your scope, it sways a ton, so make sure that you know that you need to hold breath. It also zooms in a little bit, so much better, and very, very important to do that when you are aiming in at a distance. Moving on from here, you can do your whole zeroing thing if you're using a sniper rifle, but I haven't really used those yet, so that's up to you. And then just so like for healing and stuff, quick healing is on H and grenades are G, pretty standard for most games. And then we have the quick access menu. We have G, H, provisions on P. Very good hotkeys to like know about, and you know a lot of people don't read through all of the settings and stuff. But anyways, that is all of the controls that I would say are important. Graphic settings, game. Let me know if you're having any performance issues in the comments below. I'll do my best to help you out. But again, it's going to depend on your computer and just a ton of different things. So good luck. Good luck in your raids. I'm having a ton of fun. I know that the reviews on Steam are mostly negative. It's pretty much from what I can see performance issues. So hopefully this helps you out a little bit. But yeah, anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.